If you're over the age of 60, there's something happening inside your body right now that you may not be able to see, but you may already be feeling. It may show up as stiff joints in the morning. It may show up as brain fog in the afternoon. It may show up as low energy, stubborn belly fat, slower recovery, poor sleep, or the feeling that your body simply doesn't bounce back the way it used to. And one major reason for that is chronic inflammation. Now, let me be clear from the beginning. Inflammation itself is not the enemy. In fact, acute inflammation is one of the most important healing tools your body has. It helps you recover from injuries, fight infections, and repair damaged tissue. The problem is when that inflammatory response stays turned on for too long. That's when inflammation shifts from being protective to being destructive. Researchers now associate chronic low-grade inflammation with many of the conditions people fear most as they get older. Cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, arthritis, loss of muscle mass, cognitive decline, and a general acceleration of the aging process. And here's the good news. While no single food is a miracle cure, and no grocery item should replace the medical advice you get from your physician, there are absolutely foods that can help support your body's natural anti-inflammatory defenses in powerful ways. In today's video, I'm going to count down 5 of the most effective anti-inflammatory foods for adults over 60, from number 5 to number 1. But I'm not just going to tell you what they are. I'm going to tell you why they matter specifically for the aging body, how they work, how much to eat, how to prepare them correctly, and what common mistakes can cancel out much of their benefit. And I'll tell you right now, the number 1 food on this list is not what most people expect. In fact, many people walk right past it in the grocery store, or they prepare it in a way that dramatically reduces its potential value. So stay with me all the way to the end, because by the time we get to number 1, you may completely rethink one part of your weekly shopping list. And before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. If you're watching this, leave a comment below and tell me your age and the one health issue you're working hardest to improve right now. Is it joint pain, energy, memory, blood sugar, heart health, mobility? I read those comments carefully and they help shape what I create next. All right, let's begin. Number 5, extra virgin olive oil. Most people have heard that olive oil is healthy, but what many people do not realize is that high quality extra virgin olive oil is not just a cooking fat. It contains biologically active compounds that may help calm inflammatory pathways in the body. One of the most interesting of those compounds is called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal has been studied because it appears to act in a way that is similar, in some respects, to certain anti-inflammatory medications. Not the same, not a replacement, and not at the same strength, but similar enough that scientists became very interested in it. That matters even more as we age. After about the age of 60, the body often becomes more prone to what some researchers call inflammaging, a persistent, low-level inflammatory state that contributes to wear and tear across multiple systems at once. Your blood vessels, your brain, your joints, your muscles, they can all be affected by this slow inflammatory burden. That is one reason extra virgin olive oil has been so heavily studied in dietary patterns associated with healthy aging, especially the Mediterranean-style diet. And here's something important. Not all olive oil is created equal. When people say olive oil doesn't do much, one reason may be that they're using low-quality oil, old oil, or oil that has been overheated. The anti-inflammatory compounds in extra virgin olive oil are most valuable when the oil is fresh and minimally processed. The flavor often gives you a clue. If it tastes slightly peppery at the back of your throat, that is often a sign of those beneficial polyphenols. Now let's talk about how to use it. Many people pour olive oil into a pan, crank up the heat, and cook it until it smokes. That is not the best way to preserve the compounds you're paying for. A better strategy is to use extra virgin olive oil in lower heat preparations or after cooking. Drizzle it over steamed vegetables. Spoon it over beans. Add it to lentils. Toss it into a salad. Use it over tomatoes, cucumbers, or leafy greens. And this is especially useful because olive oil also improves the absorption of certain fat-soluble compounds found in vegetables. In other words, olive oil doesn't just help on its own. It can help the rest of your meal do more for you. One of my favorite practical combinations for older adults is this: a bowl of cooked vegetables, a handful of beans or lentils, and a generous drizzle of extra virgin olive oil on top. Simple, affordable, real food. If you want a highly practical daily target, think in terms of 1 to 2 tablespoons a day used consistently as part of meals. Not once a week, not only when you remember. Consistency matters. And here's the bigger lesson. Inflammation is not usually changed by one heroic meal. It's changed by patterns. Extra virgin olive oil is powerful not because it's flashy, but because it's sustainable. It's one of those small daily choices that over time can help shift the internal environment of the body in a healthier direction. Number 4, fatty fish, especially salmon, sardines, and mackerel. If olive oil helps calm inflammation from one angle, fatty fish helps from another. And for older adults, this category of food may be one of the most important on the entire list. Why? Because fatty fish provides omega-3 fatty acids, especially EPA and DHA. These fats are not just good fats. They are structural fats. They become part of your cell membranes, including the cells in your brain, muscles, joints, blood vessels, and immune system. That means what you eat literally helps shape how your cells behave. When diets are overloaded with ultra-processed foods and certain industrial oils, the balance of fats in the body can shift in a direction that encourages more inflammatory signaling. Omega-3 rich fish helps push back in the other direction. This is especially relevant later in life because as we age, the body often becomes less efficient at converting plant omega-3s into the forms the brain and body use most readily. That doesn't make plant foods unhealthful. It simply means marine sources can become particularly valuable. Now, when people think about salmon, they often think about heart health first. That's valid, but the benefits may extend much further than that. Fatty fish has been associated with support for cognitive function, joint comfort, muscle preservation, and recovery. All things that matter tremendously after 60. And here's something I want you to remember. If you care about staying independent as you age, protecting muscle and mobility matters just as much as protecting lab numbers. A lot of people focus on cholesterol, glucose, or blood pressure. And yes, those matter. But what also matters is whether you can climb stairs, carry groceries, get up from the floor, and maintain balance. That is why anti-inflammatory eating is not only about living longer, it is about living stronger. Now let's talk practicality. You do not need to eat salmon every day. For most people, a realistic target is 2 servings of fatty fish per week. That could be salmon, it could be sardines, it could be trout, it could be mackerel, depending on what's available and affordable where you live. And let me say something for people on a budget. Sardines are deeply underrated. They are inexpensive, shelf-stable, rich in omega-3s, and they also provide minerals and protein that support aging bodies. They may not be glamorous, but they are one of the most nutrient-dense foods in the store. Now, how should you prepare fish? In a way that doesn't bury it in inflammatory junk. If you take a healthy piece of fish and deep fry it in poor quality oil, drown it in sodium-heavy sauce, and serve it with highly processed sides, you weaken the whole point. A better approach is to bake it, roast it, poach it, or grill it gently. Pair it with vegetables, beans, herbs, lemon, or olive oil. One especially effective pairing is fatty fish with leafy greens. Why? Because greens help provide magnesium, potassium, fiber, folate, and plant compounds that complement what fish is already doing. This is how you build a genuinely anti-inflammatory plate. Not by chasing one miracle ingredient, but by layering smart foods together. And one last thought here. If you do not eat fish, That does not mean all hope is lost. It simply means you want to be more intentional about getting anti-inflammatory support from other parts of your diet and speaking with your healthcare professional about whether supplementation makes sense for you. But if you can include fatty fish regularly, this is one of the most evidence-informed places to start. Number 3, blueberries. Now we come to a food that is simple, widely available, and, in my view, one of the best nutritional bargains in healthy aging. Blueberries. I know what some people think when they hear that. Oh, here we go, another video telling me berries are healthy. Yes, but stay with me because the reason blueberries matter goes far beyond the usual nutrition headlines. Blueberries are especially rich in compounds called anthocyanins. These are the pigments that give them their deep blue and purple color. And anthocyanins are interesting because they appear to help the body manage oxidative stress and inflammatory signaling at the cellular level. Now, let's make that practical. As we age, our cells do not generate energy as efficiently as they once did. The tiny energy-producing structures inside cells, the mitochondria, can become less resilient over time. When that happens, the body may produce more oxidative stress, and that can feed inflammation. This matters in the brain. It matters in blood vessels. It matters in muscle tissue. And yes, it matters in the joints too. Blueberries are not magic, but they are one of the most elegant examples of how a food can support the body in a targeted way. They are also useful because they are easy to add without overcomplicating your life. You do not need an exotic powder from the internet. You do not need a 12-step supplement stack. You do not need a product with a celebrity doctor on the label. You need a bag of blueberries, fresh or frozen. And here's the good news for people trying to save money. Frozen blueberries are an excellent option. In many cases, they are picked and frozen at peak ripeness, which helps preserve their nutritional value. They're often cheaper, they last longer, and they are available year-round. That makes them one of the most practical anti-inflammatory foods for real life. So, how much should you eat? A useful benchmark is about 1 cup a day. That could be at breakfast, it could be in a smoothie, it could be with plain yogurt, it could be with oatmeal, it could be as a snack. And that brings me to one of the best pairings on this list. Blueberries with oats. Why does that matter? Because oats provide soluble fiber, including beta-glucans, which support gut health. And the gut plays a central role in inflammation. People often think inflammation is something happening only in the knees or the back or the arteries. But the gut is one of the major control centers for immune activity in the body. When you combine fiber-rich foods with polyphenol-rich foods, you're helping feed beneficial gut bacteria while also delivering compounds those bacteria can interact with and transform. That's one of the reasons a bowl of oatmeal with blueberries is not just breakfast. It's information for your immune system. Now, here's the mistake I see a lot of people make. They buy blueberry yogurt that contains more sugar than fruit. That is not the same thing. If your healthy snack is loaded with sweeteners, syrups, and processed fillers, you're creating a mixed signal for your body. Instead, start with real blueberries and add them to foods you control. Plain Greek yogurt, steel-cut oats, chia pudding, a smoothie with unsweetened ingredients. Simple wins. And if you want one more benefit, blueberries are not only associated with inflammation support, they're also frequently studied in relation to brain aging and memory. That doesn't mean eating blueberries will turn back time. But if you are over 60 and you care about mental sharpness, this is exactly the kind of food worth building into your routine. Number 2, turmeric, but only if you use it the right way. Now we get to a food people talk about constantly, but often use incorrectly. That food is turmeric. Turmeric contains a compound called curcumin, and curcumin has been studied extensively for its anti-inflammatory potential. But here's the catch. A lot of people sprinkle a little turmeric on food once in a while, assume they've checked the box, and then wonder why nothing changes. The reason is simple. Turmeric is not just about using it. It's about using it correctly. Curcumin has relatively poor bioavailability on its own. In plain language, that means your body does not absorb it very well by itself. So if you want to actually improve your chances of benefiting from it, there are two important principles. First, pair it with black pepper. Black pepper contains piperine, which can significantly improve curcumin absorption. Second, pair it with fat. Curcumin is fat soluble, so consuming it with a fat source can help. This is why traditional preparations often make more sense than modern shortcuts. For example, a warm turmeric drink made with milk or a fortified unsweetened plant milk plus a pinch of black pepper can be a far more intelligent use of turmeric than randomly dusting it onto dry food and hoping for the best. Now, let me slow down and say something important. Turmeric is a food. Curcumin is a compound. Supplements are a separate issue. High-dose turmeric or curcumin supplements may not be appropriate for everyone, especially depending on medications, gallbladder issues, bleeding risk, or other health conditions. So if someone is thinking about using concentrated supplements, that's a conversation to have with a qualified clinician. But in food form, turmeric can be a very helpful addition to an anti-inflammatory eating pattern. Now, why is it so relevant after 60? Because curcumin has been studied in relation to multiple inflammatory pathways in the body, and researchers are also interested in how it may support joint comfort, metabolic health, and even aspects of brain health. Again, this is not a promise, it is not a cure, but it is a meaningful area of research. So, how do you use it? Here's one practical option. Add turmeric, black pepper, and a little olive oil to soups, lentils, or sautéed vegetables. Another option, make a simple golden milk style drink using unsweetened milk, turmeric, black pepper, cinnamon, and a small amount of healthy fat. And if you really want to level that up, combine it with ginger. Turmeric and ginger work well together in the kitchen and may complement one another biologically too. That combination can be especially useful for people who feel stiff, sluggish, or inflamed during colder months or first thing in the morning. Now here's the mistake to avoid. Do not assume more is always better. A giant spoonful of turmeric in a sugar-loaded latte from a cafe is not a health strategy. A steady, thoughtful, food-based use of turmeric in a broader anti-inflammatory pattern makes much more sense. And that leads us to number one. Number one, broccoli sprouts. If there is one food on this list that surprises people the most, it is this one. Broccoli sprouts. Not mature broccoli, not broccoli casserole, not broccoli drowned in cheese sauce. Broccoli sprouts. These are the young sprouts of the broccoli plant, usually harvested after just a few days of growth. They may look small and unimpressive, but nutritionally, they are one of the most fascinating foods in the anti-inflammatory conversation. Why? Because they are especially rich in compounds related to sulforaphane. And sulforaphane has attracted enormous scientific interest because it appears to support the body's own internal defense systems, including pathways involved in detoxification, oxidative stress control, and inflammation regulation. This is one of the key ideas I want you to understand. Some foods do not just add nutrients. Some foods appear to help your body activate its own protective machinery. That's one reason broccoli sprouts are so interesting. Now let's talk about why this matters more with age. As we get older, the body often becomes less efficient at handling cellular stress. Repair systems slow down. Oxidative burden can increase. Inflammatory signaling may remain elevated. Recovery is not as quick or clean as it used to be. Broccoli sprouts seem to matter because they may help support internal pathways that deal with exactly those challenges. But there is a preparation detail here that many people miss. The compounds involved in sulforaphane formation depend on an enzyme reaction. In simple language, how you prepare cruciferous vegetables can affect how much benefit you get. This is one reason raw or lightly handled forms can sometimes be especially useful. With sprouts, many people prefer to eat them raw, on salads, in sandwiches, in wraps, or added on top of cooked meals after the heat is off. That helps preserve what makes them unique. Now, are broccoli sprouts the only valuable cruciferous food? Not at all. Broccoli, cabbage, arugula, Brussels sprouts, radishes, kale. These are all excellent foods and absolutely worth eating. But broccoli sprouts stand out because they are so concentrated for their size. And here's the practical side. You do not need a mountain of them. A small handful can go a long way. If you have never tried them, start small. Their flavor can be peppery or slightly sharp. Add them to foods you already enjoy. Put them on avocado toast. Add them to a turkey sandwich. Toss them into a salad with olive oil and lemon. Layer them into a wrap with hummus. Scatter them over cooked vegetables after plating. And yes, some people choose to grow them at home because it can be cost-effective and convenient once you get the hang of it. Now here's something deeper. The reason I put broccoli sprouts at number 1 is not because they are a magic bullet. It is because they represent an important principle in healthy aging. Sometimes the most powerful foods are not the loudest, trendiest, or most heavily marketed. They're the ones quietly working with your biology in ways most people never learn about. And that brings us to the bigger message of this entire video. The real secret is not one food, it's the pattern. If you notice something while listening to this list, it's this. None of these foods work best in isolation. Extra virgin olive oil, fatty fish, blueberries, turmeric used properly, broccoli sprouts. Each one supports the body from a slightly different angle. One helps provide anti-inflammatory fats. Another contributes polyphenols. Another supports the gut. Another may improve bioactive signaling. Another appears to activate internal defense pathways. And when you put those foods into the same week, not the same day necessarily, but the same regular pattern, something important begins to happen. You stop eating in a way that constantly throws fuel on inflammation. And you start eating in a way that gives your body raw materials for repair. That does not mean perfection. That does not mean you can never enjoy dessert. That does not mean one meal defines your health. It means you start winning more of your meals than you lose. That is how long-term change actually happens. And if you're over 60, this matters more than ever because your body is not just responding to what you do once, it's responding to what you do repeatedly. Now, let me also say this very clearly. Food is powerful, but food is not the whole story. If you are chronically sleep deprived, highly sedentary, overwhelmed by stress, socially isolated, and relying on ultra-processed foods for most of your calories, no amount of turmeric or blueberries is going to fully counteract that. Inflammation is influenced by sleep, movement, body composition, blood sugar control, dental health, stress, smoking, alcohol intake, chronic illness, and yes, the quality of your diet. So if you want the biggest return, think in layers. Use food as one layer. Use daily walking as another. Use strength training as another. Use sleep as another. Use regular medical follow-up as another. That is how resilient aging is built. A simple one-day anti-inflammatory template. Let me make this even easier by showing you what this might look like in real life. Breakfast. A bowl of oatmeal topped with blueberries, chia seeds, and a spoonful of plain yogurt. Lunch. A large salad with leafy greens, beans, chopped vegetables, broccoli sprouts, and extra virgin olive oil. Snack. A handful of nuts and a piece of fruit. Dinner. Baked salmon with roasted vegetables and a side of lentils, finished with olive oil and herbs. Evening option. A warm turmeric drink with black pepper and cinnamon, unsweetened or lightly sweetened if needed. That is not a diet. That is not punishment. That is a strategy. And more importantly, it is a strategy that can be adjusted to different budgets, cultures, tastes, and routines. Final thoughts. If you take nothing else from this video, remember this. Chronic inflammation is not something you fix overnight, and it is not something you defeat with one superfood. But every day at breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even in your snacks, you have an opportunity to either support your body's healing systems or work against them. That choice adds up. So start simple. You do not need to buy everything on this list today. Pick one food, use it consistently for a week, then add a second, then a third. That's how habits stick. And if I had to give you the fastest place to start, here's what I would say. Add blueberries to breakfast. Use extra virgin olive oil daily. Eat fatty fish twice a week if you can. Use turmeric the right way, not randomly. And if you find broccoli sprouts, bring them home and give them a real try. Small changes, real foods, consistent action. That's how you build a body that ages with more strength, more clarity, and more resilience. And if this video helped you, let me know in the comments, which of these 5 foods are you already eating and which one are you going to add next?